Thank you. Make sure your mics are on. All right, family. My first question. Tell us about the name of the film, Begena, Begenaye. What does that mean?
Well, I think you can hear me.
Can I apologize for being late?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I just want to start with that. And thank you for staying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to actually thank you for coming. And then,
Yeah.
well, yeah, thank you so much for coming. It means a lot that you're here to see our work in progress. It really means a lot. Yeah. To start with the name of the film. So Begena is the instrument, and when you say something yay, it's like if I call him his name and then if I put a yay in it, it means my Begena. So it's that's the title, that's the translation of it. But we chose that particular name because it's a song, it's a Begena song written by our dear Gashade. It's a song that he
Did y'all
wrote.
know Haile Garima is a songwriter?
Yeah. Yeah. um, yeah. So he wrote. If you see Harvest 3000, there's a song and it's performed really well. And I didn't even know that Haile wrote it until recently. It kind of was released with that film, but now a lot of young Begena players, all of them play that song. It's a very unique song, and it's really like, accepted by the new generation. And for us, when we bring film and Begena together, Haile has always done it in his films. Begena has appeared in all his Amharic films that I know of. So we wanted to also pay homage to that, where film and Begena meet. I think we're just kind of wouldn't be the first time Begena is featured in a film, because Haile has done it several times, and we're just paying homage to that.
I think it's really important what she's saying too, because as you noticed in the film, I mean, they're really describing that there was an era where people were really starving for any images, anything that they could find, to the point of believing that it has just vanished. And it was only watching Teza the other day that it occurred to me, like every single like about 4 films that it has where he features either the sound of Begena or the images of Begena, and what that's meant for people who are seeking for this has been, I don't know, it's been for us. We went back home and like realized that he's everyone who's a Begena player is a fan of Haile because of this. So, yeah.
What draws the two of you so powerfully to this instrument?
Tell you that in the process of learning it, yeah, it is a storehouse of information, beauty, insights, perception, knowledge, wisdom. All of it is inside the instrument in the way that it has been collecting that story, those traditions, those wisdoms throughout time. And when you pick it up, you kind of get a hold of that. Really, I think that it's been like that for me.
Yeah. I mean, the sound of it itself, I think, is very powerful. But just putting that aside even for a second, what we found was that in researching the Begena, we're researching history, we're researching Ethiopian, musicology and just sense of music. We're actually really unearthing so much that we don't know that's connected to everything else. And so there's so much power in that, because I know myself better as a result of studying Begena. You know,
There's an interview that Haile encourages us to watch with Baba Amiri Baraka, where he's talking about relationship between history and jazz music. And in the interview, he says that he learned from another elder, Baba Sterling Brown, that music is history, and that where the music goes, the people go. I believe that wholeheartedly, that the music we listen to deeply impacts our consciousnesses and our individual and collective behavior. The power in music, is not just in familiar, pleasant sounds, but in the way that engaging with those sounds influences us and how we move in the world. Even if only the player is affected, the way that the change in them is felt when they re-enter community, that has an impact that transforms the whole community.
right.
If Baba Raka is right, and where the music goes, the people go, where does the Begena lead people, especially as compared to the music that may have taken its place in prominence in what people listen to?
I don't know about where, but I one thing about it is that's an amazing question, by the way. But one thing about the Begena that I really come to understand is that it's somewhat of an antidote to the affliction of consumerism. People, every single person that we've met who plays the Begena lives a lifestyle that is really against the grain, against the sort of overconsumption and just, I don't know, meaningless living. And it also really leads to a place of wisdom. That guy is like 20-something years old. So are most of the people that we interviewed, and how much they know, how much they've come to understand, and the passion that you see by which they actually actively seeking is incredible. So it leads to a place where they're much more open-minded, actually, and just powerfully understanding of their not just like what they're doing, but like they're so certain as to the power of this Begena, and the way they pursue that passion is very inspiring.
Actually, to add to that, it's really hard to put to understand, especially if you don't understand the language. I think the very essence that it makes it, part of what makes it really healing is the very thing that makes us push it away. And I think Haile helped me understand this one time we were talking about Lalibela, Aminas, which are another group of musical history that we will maybe in the future hopefully discover more. But talking about that and Begena in comparison, he told me that the Begena is a reminder for us to not sin too much. Sin or like sin, like, I don't know how to say this. Sin or sin. Not to sin. And to like Begena is always there as a reminder that you're gonna die, that this life is worthless, and whatever you do has to be an awareness of that. You should by first know that you're gonna die. So whatever you do has to make sense, because you will be questioned for the things that you do. And I think this creates responsibility. This brings down truth that you don't always want to face. It's not a face-safe truth. So it's a difficult instrument to live with, because it just keeps telling you cannot. It doesn't hide the problems away. It kind of brings everything so that you can face it before it comes. And I think this, and also with that, something that I've noticed that I find extremely amazing is whenever we talk to this young people of Begena players and people that we met in relation to this project, the way they revere the past, the way they revere, nothing begins with them. Everything begins with what the past has done. And it's like the way they walk, they go into a place, the way they say things was like, wow, every time I say something, it just makes me think about where do I begin? And they always begin from a and that's also how they get the courage, the strength, because they don't just come as the 20-year-old self. And one unique experience that I had, for instance, in shooting this, the person who played Begena in the middle, he didn't talk in this that you saw, but we were interviewing him, and I had shea butter in my pocket, like in my bag or something. His lips were dry. I wanted to give it to him before we shoot. Oh yeah, I've heard so many good things about shea butter, but I don't want it. I'm good with what I have. I was just like, respect, there's someone who knows what he wants, what he doesn't want. Just because it's good, he doesn't take it. And so that's kind of what I find where it takes them. If that answers it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. I have two more questions before we open up to the general discussion. First, how does an instrument with such a powerful sound, such a powerful resonance, a powerful history, how does it come to be something where people are worrying about its longevity, where they're worrying about it being a lost art at some point in the near future?
I mean, this is really not in isolation, right? Just the forces of globalization, modernity, Hollywood, all of these forces, really are nudging people out of these traditional ways. I mean, I think about how much was probably lost as a result of, say, things like the Amazon, just sort of that indigenous knowledge that, and we're sort of in this weird moment now where I feel like the last of it is now, in a sense. And from here on, and it's like more and more people are getting pulled into this life that doesn't really give value to the ways of our ancestors. And really the work has to be done now across the board. This is one thing, but there's many things that are sort of slipping away from our grasp as the last people that know about these things are dying off.
Yeah, I think you put it well, and I think that's really part of what this work is. Really, like what happens to this kind of art, and also what dies, what doesn't die, and how much of it you can retrieve. But to mention a few things, I think during the revolution of students in Ethiopia, during that time, it was a lot of saying no to the past, calling everything feudal, everything related to religion of the past was shunned upon. I think that was a major disconnect. And also after that, even when it appears, people want to alter it, people want to bring it. No, you are like the other instruments, sit here and go into this space. So I think we lost not just the respect for or a generation of young people came into power that don't really cherish, understand, or value these things. And we are like what I think my father's generation is kind of when the revolution really happened, and then now it's kind of reviving. But I think when we say no to tradition, this is one of the many wonderful things that we have lost. We are not lost, but we have really buried deep under, that I think we can still uncover a lot of things, but I think a lot of political movement really affected it. Really affected us, yeah.
Thank you. My last question.
I just want to point out that within Addis, right, I think there are probably 2 elders left that we know of that are well known. Some might be, in seclusion, but that we know of 2 that are left that are there to really bridge, you know, the generate like this. They're the bridge, you know, between the past and this new generation of young people that we're filming. So and notoriously difficult to find. So, you know, and that's why we're really, you know, we're still looking to get their voices in here because it's so necessary. And you know, for whatever reason, they're very difficult to find.
And also, I think to that point, which you remind me is, it is never. I don't think we can ever find out how much of it there is, even right now as we speak, because it is an instrument of meditation, seclusion, for personal use. That's the tradition of it. So even finding it is a little hard because none of these people want anything from us. Like the older people, especially, they don't want it. Like, so yeah, people come and go, and it kind of gives them that feelings, even in terms of traditionally when it's played, they usually play by themselves. There's a tradition of playing it, waking up at 3 a.m., playing by yourself. So because it's an instrument like that, people very took it privately. And I think that nature of the Begena itself might hurt and affect how much information there is, because there is not that much, like, especially on how it's taught, how it's tuned, and all of those things. None of it is written. All of it is a word of mouth. And even within the Begena tradition, there's this thing called the Begena families, which we're discovering. And this Begena families only play this scale. They perfect that scale. They only teach their son or their daughter, and it's just that. And it's a very private art. Even now, it's a very private art. You know, for instance, when he said they're harder to find, to say the name, for instance, there's a player named Zarfudam Say, who his father is Say that they have a whole lineage that they just carry, a whole style of playing, a whole everything. It's a very, very unique house, and they call the house the mistakes, like house of playing, whatever. And we cannot even convince the person, the son, to come, like, be interviewed. You know what I mean? So, and it's like it's a whole family. And we do find that block and I think that's the same blockage that men does not find is in trying to find information. Is like also our being young helps, our being young also doesn't help. I'm getting into the personal, but you know, I think the privacy around it is kind of bad. Yeah.
I want to actually take this opportunity to send our condolences to the family of Kashalama Yofanta. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Kashalama Yofanta was, I mean, this number that I told you two would have been 3 last week, but we actually lost an elder last week.
Yeah.
An elder Begena player who taught many people, including Tedros that comes here, who plays the keys. He taught him how to play the Begena at Yard School of Music. And we contacted him last year, actually, when we were in Ethiopia, but I believe he was not feeling well at the time, and we weren't able to get an interview with him. But yeah, I wanted to.
Yeah. Even I want to say rest in peace, and at the same time, too, it's that part of it hurts. For instance, there's another elder named Alakata Sama. They're no longer with us. That person's Begena did that as crazy, just crazy. And his son, who's also like very, very old, he used to live in the monastery, like in a monastery close to Addis. Mente got in touch with him, but his son died. Like in the process of trying to make this movie, even in the process of trying to make this movie, we lose a lot of people that are very, very key. So I guess I kind of want to really know and understand how that doesn't happen, to see, you know, I don't know. Yeah, it hurts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Last question before we open it up. And I've received very specific instructions. So this is not just a Q&A. Melket Sadiq, I'm used to calling him Gazal, Melket Sadiq, and Jerusalem. They want to hear your thoughts. They want this to be a discussion. So it's not just questions they're after, but What did you think of the film? Um, can you tell us a bit about tuning? One of the first obstacles you came up against in your journey with the instrument was the tuning of the instrument, which is very unique, and it's not homogenized in how tuning works with the Begena. Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, so when I first got the Begena, or even in my close family relations, I don't have a lot of musicians, so it's just kind of appeared in my life. I wanted it, but I didn't have any preparations for it and how to tune it. We took it to a friend of ours, and I think one of the first, like Makanya, broke that day. So it wasn't like when I first had it. Then that's when I started to look around for help to learn it, and especially in the DMV area, there isn't that many, and I'm not also that connected like in the church area. Maybe that would have helped, but in my affinity, my search, I haven't found that many, and I kind of, the usual way to tune it that you would find on YouTube would be like to kind of use the Western frequency, EC, and all of those things, and kind of use your phone. You can tune it. That was quite a process for me. He actually really helped me. He tunes it much better than I do. But part of what the history of this thing claims, I should say, right, that it's tuned to the natural frequency. That's another narrative that is very important. And I think even in the way I tune it right now, the way it's tuned is not right, because I'm tuning it to the wrong standard. When we look back in history, those that live in the farm had their own way of tuning it to the sounds that are in the farm, that are in their close by area. Those in the palaces, even the names were very different. Like they would use names that are in relation to the things within the palace. The sound is different. There are ones that would name it with like the sound of bees. The kind of bees have different sound, and they would tune it to that. And this all like almost, when I speak of them, they're almost like mythical stories. But how to take that and to put it to like the ECD, like the Western, that that's kind of what we have access to right now, is the super narrowed down version of the tuning on even the sound of. Do we really hear the real sound of the Begena right now? For the most part, probably not, because it's not even tuned to the right way. And when you say to the right way, where, to who? Those in the south would tune it differently. Those in the north would tune it differently, because of how its relationship with the nature, with the plant. So it's the tuning is still a major problem, as I think it relates to the tuning of community, society in general as a whole. But also, I think this kind of still retains its most natural form. It hasn't transformed much from what we know so far, I guess, at least. So that's why it's kind of like a resource house or a portal to the past, even in the way when we tune back to the right frequency, like we tune back a lot of things with it. So the tuning is a very still interesting aspect that I'm learning, and I think a lot of Begena players are learning. Yeah.
Okay, who wants to join the discussion?
That was quick.
I mean, you definitely leave a lot to be asked. I love it. Hello. One of my questions, I know this is supposed to be a discussion, but one of the questions I really have is like, what ritual encompasses the Begena? And what specifications, what skill sets, are searched for when, this tradition is being passed down? What are they looking for? Are they looking for first sons? Are women as much participants? What are the cultural specifications that they search for when they want someone to inherit this ancestral instrument? So I just wanted to explore that more and, see exactly how people inherit this instrument and, what's asked of them. I think the ritualistic process is so important to acknowledge, and I would just love to know more about it.
you didn't see it today, but we actually interviewed a couple of women Begena players, and looking back in history, this is one of those things where, thankfully, you actually find a lot of representation of women, and it's not one of those situations where it's like the father just gives it to the son, and it's not at all. It's you'll actually find many women that even have gone down in history whose names we can read and know who they are. Um, and so it's actually quite a beautiful story as far as that. And I think there was a mention of one Begena player. This is Azeminelik's wife is mentioned in here as having played Begena. Her name is Queen Taitu. So, but what traditions surround it? Was this a question?
So yeah, when it comes to selecting these Begena players, like what things are considered like even say elders in a culture when they want to pass something down to their to their children or their descendants. Oh, sorry. when elders want to pass down something, a specific skill set or whatnot, they look for things in their children, or they experience things, I guess, with their kids where they're like, oh, they're keen, they're patient, they pay attention. So what skills and what requirements are asked of these young people that they want to entrust this practice to?
It's interesting that you ask this question. We're probably gonna ask that more often now. I think that's where this helps. Okay, thank you for asking this question again. I think that's part of why we lost. That's one of the areas where there's very little information. So maybe when we find the ones that are actually like his father, the player, and like when those people, yes, we'll find more information. But in terms of what the instrument requires, I think, from kind of what we're gathering is even in the time of so I think understanding where, how, when it's played is everything. For one, it's played for personal reasons, for spiritual reasons. It's never played like weddings or festivities. It is taken during war. During war, it's like as part of the not cheerleading, but like the energy of the war. I don't know how to describe it, but using those things. So when you think about those things, even for the person to choose it, they have to be honest. They have to be someone who wants to be spiritual, because that's what it serves. You're not gonna get a lot of recognition from it. Even no matter how much back we have peeled, we don't really hear a lot is the most successful, the richest Begena player. That does not really happen. So it's a kind of, people that choose it are the ones that are patient, or that are like seeking to be patient, that are seeking to solitude, that are seeking not riches out of it. So I think that's there, and when they teach you, they don't write it, or they don't use a lot of external things. So you have to actually listen as they play and play along. So it's a very time-consuming meditative process. And I think there will be more as we uncover, but these are just part of the things that I'm thinking. Because even for someone to get up to play at 3 a.m., who's that person that would get up at 3 a.m. to play this instrument for themselves? And a lot of, even to make the instrument, even the character of the instrument changes, like with weather, because it is like natural materials. So even dealing with it just requires a very patient person. And also from the stories that we're hearing, and from the people that we're meeting as Begena players, they're the ones who are not afraid to tell the truth. They're the ones who are there to question you, to be like, that's not right. So in a different way, kind of answers, but we don't know the exact rituals of how they taught.
Yeah, and we don't know really, because everyone that we've met are people who were called by the Begena and pursue it against all odds. And it's not something that they inherited. In fact, it's something that their parents are actively trying to get them to stop because they want them to go to school and want them to actually get a job and be successful in the ways of city life. But these are like outliers. These are people who just refuse to listen and pursue this, and at some point, their parents are like, all right, I guess he's really into it. But yeah, it's not, it doesn't get you, it doesn't win you any points. You know what I mean? So this is something that they're just compelled to do at this point. And these are the ones that we know. So we wouldn't really know about how this was passed down. And this is a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.
The screening was great, truly special. I'm still kind of processing it, but I will give a bit of, I will share what it helped me be more curious about. So specifically for me, I work in behavioral health research, and it made me think about kind of the process of data collection, or what we call data collection, and the aim to be able to gather information and tell a story. And what I realized is that, at least in the corporate research path that I am in, storytelling ends up being very structured, and the end result is less poetic, less artistic. And I think what I've realized is a lot of times kind of the missing ingredient in what research tries to accomplish, especially with qualitative research that's trying to tell a story beyond numbers, is that there is a disconnect almost between the people who are doing the gathering of the information and the people who are sharing, right? So I'm very curious to hear a bit more about, specifically to filmmaking and the research process that you're going through and the storytelling that you're trying to do, what the engagement was like with the people in front of the lens, and how you were able to tell the story in a way that, because I know that in going to this, you need to find some kind of order, right? So you try to apply a certain framework, answer certain questions, but I'm curious to hear about your engagement with those in front of the lens and how that might have shifted even the story that you initially thought you were trying to tell, and what you've learned from engaging and partnering with them and telling the story.
Good question. So the way we approached this film, was initially to find someone that can help us ask the right questions, because we went into it not even necessarily knowing what questions were actually right. Like by right, I mean what questions were important to ask. And so once we found the first protagonist, really, that's not who you saw today, but this person was, not only did we interview him, but he ended up being our connection to the entire community. And from that, the next person we met, knew the next person that we interviewed. So it went on like that. And a lot of times we would have at least one of them with us in interviewing anyone. And so we would ask questions that we feel like, we already have sort of a pattern for. But we always encourage them to ask a question. And it always ends up being the most interesting question is their question, And so that really allows us to learn, this second. So we've been there twice. Our second trip was so much better because one, we knew what questions we needed to ask, and two, we had learned so much from them already, so it was really about a matter of like refining some things that we saw along the way that needed clarification, and questions that were born out of the answers that they gave us. And so it has some structure, but there's actually really a lot of room because we're learning in the process. This is sort of, this for us is like a more fun way to learn about something. It's just applying everything that we know at it, and researching something that we're passionate about while performing, the kind of things that we want to do. So I love being behind camera, and she's really who crafts the questions, but we also like to switch spots all the time. So but this is how I work, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but this is where it led me to.
Okay, and to add to that, and how much the film has changed in our interaction with them, completely, 100%. Because when our first approach to the film was, or our first time to actually like go into filmmaking with it was on an interview, trying to learn it, we heard this is used to be used for healing, and I'm like, it is what I hear is good, but it wasn't really healing. It wasn't like that. So, but where's the one that heals? How did they play it? So that was our first question. And when we were about to go to audition, we have a few musicians that we want to connect Begena players, and we want to do a thing on healing in Begena. And when we first made the first person, we realized, oh, what is Begena in the first place? Like, we have no idea what this whole thing is in the first place. So, and then I think this film will be what it will be, mostly because of right now, I'd say 4 people that are extremely important to this film. They are crafting the film. For instance, the one that you saw today, he's actually a filmmaker. He studies film to film Begena. That's his thing, to document Begena, historical things. That's his obsession. So we work a lot with them. We're like, we're people to people. We're interested in Begena, and we don't have a lot of the background of people that are usually interested in Begena, the religious background, all of those things. And we kind of went with them with like 100% honesty. We're just these people. And that really helped, because then they're like, okay, they're going to give us all their ideas they have. They're going to make it their film because it is. And, and I think even in the process in the future, working in this project, I think we really want to find more ways to make it that way, to make it like, for instance, with Mint, it would be very nice for us to be able for him to just kind of shoot for this film, and it's added. So that's the most exciting part about this project. They're really like our best friends now. Like we talk all the time about a lot of different things. And for instance, you haven't heard Suri today, but he played a little bit. He sends me music, secure music from all over, and that's the kind of relationship we have. So it is we are making the film with them, and they're really telling the story, and we just kind of went with cameras. Yeah.
But I want to say, you just reminded me, the first time we met one of them, and we told him like why we've come. He's like, "Y'all be serious?" He's like, "You came all the way here to learn about Begena?" He's like,
Yeah.
and like, like, am I being made? It's like, is this a
Yeah.
trick?
And I think it's interesting because that's one of the guys that were like, this guy plays crazy, and we really been following him before we went. And we called him, we found his number, we called him, we went to his favorite church. That's our meeting spot, actually. We go to his favorite church. And we went, and we gave him a big hug and all that. He was like, I don't know you guys, but we've been seeing it for a very long time, that we think that he knows us just the way we do. And the same thing happened with Minte. We just told him about the part. We just told him, yeah, we do this, we do that. He's like, but we should meet first. So it's been like that. I don't know. We really got into, before we started shooting, we watched a lot of videos. We were in it. Wow, wow, this is here, this is here, this is here. Like there's so much. So there was so much excitement built into it. We were already fans of these people, you know. So that kind of freaked them out a little bit at first, but now even now I'm sure they're watching or something like that if it's not too late for them. They're very much part of the process. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for being here.
Come
Oh,
on.
Yes, my name is Kamal Grimes, and definitely happy to see two of my good friends, here at Sankofa, and that this is your night for the hard work that created by even just the book titles or the covers that you see, but you can take it home with you as well and continue to help this place go on for many, many more years.
Yeah.
And folks online who are watching, they can go to sankofa.com and you can purchase books online. We have more than books as well. So many different things that, are uplifting our culture. And uh, those who don't know, if there is a book that you're interested in that you don't see on the shelf or you don't see online, you can make a special order. We have access to a lot more books than than we have space to store or labor to upload, but we can get them. So we also are looking for your input on things that you're interested in, because you may look around and say, oh, well, Sankofa, they don't have a book on Begena, but ask us about it. We'll find one for you. Okay, I just wanted to say that. Yeah. And I do have two questions for you all. One is about the sound, and the other is about the sight or the visual. So the first one, a reflection for me, we know that, instruments and sounds make vibration, but with the Begena, it's like accentuated for me, like that fact that we know sometimes take for granted. You really feel the Begena. Like for me, it seems as though the sound, it goes and it doesn't even feel like it's going into me. It feels like it's coming out of me. Like when I hear the Begena, it's like I know it's the sound that went in, but I feel it inside, like the zzz. It's like when you make that sound, even with yourself, it's like that vibration that you feel inside your body. So I was wondering, and that could be healing. So I was wondering, what is the relationship with the Begena and sound healing? Did you find anything about vibrations? I mean, do you know what frequency the notes are? Sometimes I'll go on YouTube and look for like 432 hertz sound or different hertz. Have you guys looked into that type of stuff with the Begena?
Yeah, we have someone who's actually writing a book on Ethiopian music and frequencies and this whole subject that you're talking about. And we had a couple of interviews with him. He's an amazing resource, and you haven't seen him today, but he will be in the film for sure. We have some interviews with him, and so he's very much looking into that. There's been some research done as well, where there's been some evidence of the sound actually possibly having some properties that could heal certainly mental health issues and things of that sort. So there's been some evidence of that, but not enough studies really. Maybe I'm talking about maybe one or two that's been done. But one of the protagonists that's on this film, this is his thing. He's huh? Yes, Hermes. Yeah, Hermes. Well, Hermes Begena, as he calls himself. A lot of these players take on the Begena as their last name once they really get into it. It's kind of amazing. And he's been pursuing this. And last when was it? A few months? No, this was maybe like a year ago now. You know, he sent us a picture from the OR, and he's like wearing some scrubs, and we're like, bro, what you doing in there? And he's like, well, I'm thinking about possibly playing Begena during surgery. And but I wanted to see if I was gonna faint or not, you know what I mean? So he's like, I wanna do like a little test run before I come in here, with a Begena and actually attempt to do this. We're like, and so he's doing that kind of research and that kind of work, and I think it's incredible. He also plays, I think, once a week at a nursing home for elders and um, people under hospice care. And we've actually witnessed that. We actually went and shot that, and that was incredible. So there's a lot of work that folks are doing in terms of this healing work and sound vibration. Um,
With healing, I think just like the beginner, what we faced was you're trying to define healing, but what are you trying to heal from is really the question that when we ask that, what kind of disease are we talking about? What is it healing and what's disease? It's interesting that it kind of brings those kind of questions first, and it will give you different answers, which we really like. There isn't like, oh, again, I heal you definitely. It has erased cancer in your blood. There's nothing like that. And there are people that would want to go that route and discover that route, and there are people that would tell you, "Kesulla," and I'm like, and not all holy water is like, not all water is holy. Just because you have the bagana and maybe by nature it has this healing uh nature to it, doesn't mean you can heal from it. That's kind of uh so it's taking us back to understanding what how people found harmony. And I think the way we're starting to understand it is in the way it heals community by, for instance, it's just a roundabout way, but how it heals in a way by reminding you by the things that it's making you contemplate, has create a certain harmony within people. By if people have, this might go into a very wrong place by saying if people have free will and all of that, but like Begena are the kind of things that put people into perspective and that kind of make sure and understand your responsibility, how you treat others, how you conduct yourself, how that affects, and even by yourself, how much you're craving, your imbalance will then create chaos. Even eating too much will make you sick, right? So Begena is there to kind of curb all these crazy appetites within an individual and within community. And I think, and then those things are very much the disease of the physical disease that that they're the disease that physicalize really. So I'm just opening my eyes to like what I mean by healing when we ask these questions, what we mean by healing. So that is one of the things we explore in this film too. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And then my follow-up question was about, so the final scene with the Begena player, and it was I like the way it was shot from just like a cinematograph, the cinematography. I liked it. And the way that light and darkness were used in it, the way his fingers were playing, it was in it was the outline of his form, but in the background you could see through the window and it was light outside. So, and you could look in between the Beggar strings and see that light, and it was contrasted with his dark form. I just thought that was beautiful. Can tell yeah, you all are photographers. I've seen your work, and they're selling their prints in the back. So if you want to see more of that light and dark, interplay, you can do that and take it home. But the image I really got though was his fingers looked like a spider, creating a web, a spider, and the strings look like the web of the spider. To me, that's what I got. So I was wondering, did you guys see that too, or is that just up to our own interpretation?
I would talk to your own interpretation, but we have talked about that. We have literally said that the like the way when people play, how especially how fast they play, it really has a visually it's very rich. Like I think you're kind of tapping into the world of that. Yeah, visually it's extremely rich, and yeah, so yeah, that's all I can say. Like it has come up. I don't think we're thinking about spiders when we were shooting it. I'm not sure, but yeah,
Has anyone else mentioned the spider and the spider web concept?
nobody has seen it. Today's
You're the first.
Was it you? I know somebody said it. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I know somebody
Power in the
said it.
hands that you can kind of sense, maybe. That's fun.
Okay. But thank you.
Thank you guys. This is so wonderful. I'm so grateful that you shared this with us. Um, I can't really think how to craft this question, but um, so Haile before has said that in the beginning the first sound was the Begena, and uh, when I think of like Africa and how we connect with sound as a vessel or carrier of spirit, and you guys were talking about how if there is any prerequisite to play the Begena, it is to be seeking a spiritual journey or already on this journey. Um, how does the Begena like connect to the African spirit as a whole, not just Ethiopia, but so much of Ethiopia, but also just like who we are as a people and how we carry sound in our bodies, how we connect to it, and how we connect with spirit.
It's I think it's a very thank you so much, Busena. Thank you for that question. It's a very hard question to answer. Uh, I would, off top of my head right now, think of even the calling itself is very African. The desire to learn the instrument. I think why would anybody want to play that instrument? Like even things like for me when I hear it, it's like going into a very distant space. And I've always had that I miss that space. I don't know. I feel like I was born many years before when I wanted to be born, when tradition was still intact. And but just by the sound of it just brings the whole thing to you, you know. So I think the desire, the call is like the memories that we have to hear the sounds is really what makes us African, and or part of what makes us African, the land that we're from. So I think the very calling is of the land, because you're of the land, because it makes you miss or quench a thirst. That's very much related to the culture. Even the sound of it. That's why even earlier when I say they revere everything they do and they say, they bring the past with them, even before them. You know, and also the more don't call me on this, but the more we go back to history, the more we go back to our cultures and traditions, especially honest musical artistic expressions, the more closer we are to our past. And I feel like in the past I don't think we were so divided as we are right now. So when we bring things back from that time to here, we also bring back the connection that we had, the similarity that we had. For me, it is with music that I connect to you more. You know, it's through Oud that I connect with you as a person. You know, that just it calls me to you. I get you because I listen to Oud and I can understand when you're sad or something like that, you know? So music is very much the thing that we all is like a water source where we all put our own. And if I go back to fetch something from it, I don't just fetch what's Ethiopian. I think I fetch a lot more than that, you know? So as a portal, it just takes me, even when I look back, it doesn't feel, even with those people that are really into the instrument, whenever they explore so much of ancient tradition folk music, and even in what they play, they bring so much of other cultures now from the old. So it's it's not what connects us Begena to the past, but it is like, and the rest of Africa and the rest of the world, it is itself the connection to me in a way. Yeah.
Sorry, what you said just made me think, like, for example, the Korah, like they said the Korah was brought to humans from a water spirit. Like the first one who played the Korah was not human. Like, would you say, or do you feel the same for the Begena in terms of like its beginning coming from like another side? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, so that's even when you ask them where did the Begena come from, most of them, of course, is from the heavens. That's really the first answer they give you, and then they go back to the like historical explanation of it. So when people refer to the Begena, that's why even when you say there's a lot of mythical stories in relation to Ethiopian musical history. So there is a lot of that, even in the Bible, like say that the songs of Begena were heard. I've never read it, but the songs of Begena were heard in the heavens. So traditionally, I think we still, even in the narrative, still say that it comes from the heaven and those things. I have no opinions on that. I think I'm curious to say what makes, I find it's more poetic. You know, what makes this thing, what about this instrument is from the heavens? I don't necessarily think it's the physical manifestation, but what they hear from it, what they connect from it. So I don't disregard it as like, oh, it doesn't mean anything, it's a mythical superstitious story. I don't also personally take it as that's the narrative, that's the history, that explains it all. It's more like, why is it said like that? That's kind of where I am. Yeah. Say.
Okay, I respond.
Oh, hi.
Oh, there was a question.
Thank you both again so much for using your talent and art in this beautiful instrument. And I think this is I don't know, for me, when I listen to it, it has a lot of like the things that the genres of different parts of like the world that I've listened to. Some of the like, it's amazing. The one music that I heard at Melkat Bar, it was just like it had all of it, and it was just being played once, and it's like it goes through different rhythm and different ways of vibrations. And yeah, I haven't growing up, I didn't get to listen to it like the way I'm listening to it, and I was subjected because you guys did, listen several times, and it was just like a connection that I felt. And again, I would love to see the growth in both of you and the way you will grow and teach a lot of people what this instrument is. And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you for your help too for the film. Thank you, but we have to say that, yeah. Oh, many times actually. I should say something I wanted to mention. Might be very much out of place, but I wanted to say last year when we went back, I'm also as part of Sankofa Film Institute. We graduated this year, but we wanted to stay longer. Um, Alan, our teacher, was like, we need to gather some things to help out when they go back this year. And because when we did that, it was a very short time. And what we were able to do was collect some equipment and some mics. And it wasn't like we weren't able to do as much as the people there deserve. We really want to support their musical journey, their exploration. But Mike, like Bamni donated her mic, Ramon donated like a mixer and all of those things, and that community. Now Surafiel is using it to produce his music. So I actually really want to say thank you for that. It makes us so happy and proud. Yeah.
I think it was very, very beautiful. I also want to say that the scene that Kamal was talking about, it felt very hypnotizing, watching the strings vibrate, watching the hands move. I feel like that's what I feel when I listen to Begena. It really makes my mind quiet and go inward, like whether I want to or not. Really makes me focus on the state that I'm in. Um, yeah, so learning the history and the knowledge of it is yeah, very beautiful. Yurus, I just want to know for you, like, what does your practice look like when you play it, and how have you grown as a person? What has it helped you discover about yourself? Yeah, just curious to know that.
Um, my practice, it's been on and off. I think the first 2 years or something, it was very hard. It was very hard, like to know what to do. And I think that's when the initial aspects of the film started, about researching, gathering the information on all of those things. And then I would just practice, just like there's some introductory things that I could have picked up at first. And what's funny is usually the tradition is that you play on the with your left hand, and I didn't even know that I played for like the first 2 years just with my right hand. And then when we first went to Ethiopia to work on this film, that's also when I got the chance to learn a little bit from the players, and they're like, first, Jane, switch your hand. You know, that's not the right hand to play with. So, and I had to kind of start from zero and learn. And I'm very, very much like, if there's 100%, I don't know if I'm even at 1% of like learning it. It's very young. My practice, uh, to say a little bit, it teaches me, I love things that make me sit still. I'm not good at it if I don't have a reason. So I think it's helping me calm down and have like a meditative practice. And also like what I've learned, especially around the first months and years of learning, was if my mind of somewhere a little bit, I lose what I'm trying to do. So really taught me how to like compose myself, sit, and also I think the biggest learning was that it kind of gave me the permission, or I made me feel that there's nothing between me as a person and the things that I want to learn, especially when it comes to tradition, because uh, I didn't have a lot of access to traditional knowledge on a daily basis in a way that made sense. You know, my grandfather is actually a member, which is like a very prominent church person. I never met him, you know. So there's that disconnect is not just within the Begena, but it's within our homes, within our family. And I think I really feel that void. I really, really do feel that void. And I think Begena has helped me piece back those things together and to I think the magic of it for me is like when you're sitting down and saying something that's like 100 years old, like as it is, word by word, it's giving me access to what they were thinking, what they were feeling, and it's also giving me a chance to use their knowledge, their understanding in my daily life. It does come up, like when I make decisions, when I do certain things, it does come up. It makes me more responsible and more thoughtful, because I do, it just makes me, reminds me, you know, what's valuable. I don't know if you will not see that in the way it's played, because I'm very much learning, but yeah, it's like a portal. It opened a lot of doors for me to even sit right now with the Beganics and have the confidence to say anything. That's for me a long way, you know. Yeah. I don't feel.
No, it's good.
Well, I'd like to say I thoroughly enjoyed the film. Thank you
Thank you.
for sharing your film with us. Um, the other thing that it made me think about was the concept that we think when we listen to music, there has to be a particular sound and order. And listening to it, when I hear it, it's the disjointedness, like is different from what we've come to accept in Western music, right? But I was telling Hailey earlier that it sounded like um, when I first heard the, I don't know the name of the instrument, but
Begena.
Chinese instrument,
Oh,
Chinese
Chinese.
instrument, one string, and how I was
Oh, yeah.
amazed at how musical their instrument when they play one string.
Mm.
You know, because you'll think like you need more than one string to hear music. But the beauty of this instrument to me is that it's vibration that I hear. And what it reminds me of is in my Buddhist practice, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. When you say that a lot of time, you have to say it in your meditation. It sounds like the Begena to me, that vibration is coming out. And it can put you into a trance and a state of, for lack of a better word, calmness, nirvana, whatever, you know, it's hypnotic. And, you know, thank you for sharing this instrument. And I could understand why it draws people, because there is that universal sound that exists. If you listen for it, or if you quiet yourself, you know. And I believe that there are many instruments out there like that, that center you, or that come from the heavens, or God, or whatever you want to call it. And this instrument reminds me of those tones when I am chanting, and even for other, you know, monks and whatnot.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to, you're losing the people who are supposed to fundraise for you. Sorry. And I'm not sure the remaining ones are that bankable. But I want to say first, as far as I'm concerned, on behalf of Sharik and me, I want to thank you and congratulate you. There's a whole baby in the making. And I have a lot of feedback to give, not publicly, but to you privately, whenever you guys are interested. But I just want to thank you for the effort you've put. It's a major contribution to salvage this tradition. Thank you again.
All right, family. One more time, thank you to Jerusalem and Melchizedek.
Thank you.
So what we saw today is a work in progress, and the artists invite you to be a part of that work. We talked earlier about how music is the foundation of history, and where the music goes, the people will go. So if the direction that the Begena guides people into, the direction we've talked about so much in this Q&A, the power of this music, the healing power, if that's the kind of energy that you want to proliferate into the world, you can contribute to that work by contributing to this film that honors and raises up that work. So there's a QR code behind yours. I want to see everybody's phone out. If you've already donated, it doesn't matter. At least fake me out. At least if you're here, please take your phone out, scan the QR code. There's also a trailer at that QR code. So that has more footage that we did not see this evening. That's amazing. It's truly amazing. So I've not seen everyone's phone yet. I will stand here until I have seen at least 90% of everyone's phone. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you again for this film and for this discussion and for everything that you do. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for your generous donations. Peace.
I want to say thank you for everybody that came. We really, really appreciate you. I mean, it really means a lot. Thank you, Jordan, for saying yes to emceeing tonight. I learned a lot from the way you received it, the way you posted it. It's amazing. Just so this is the first one. Many more to come with you. I had Busaina Butul, Tsalote, Bamni Help. These are also Sankofa Institute family. So thank you again, and I'm proud. Erica, you all showed up. Augustus, thank you so much. Abel, Maritu, everybody, Yonate, Kamal. Yeah, I wanted to say thank you. And Sankofa for being the space that we can do this at this hour. This is just everything. So I'm so grateful for Sankofa. Yeah.